The long-simmering tensions between the Trump administration and so-called sanctuary cities have reached a boiling point. On June 30th, the Department of Justice filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles, aiming to dismantle its sanctuary ordinance. The administration's lawsuit alleges that Los Angeles's policies, which limit cooperation between local law enforcement and federal immigration agents, are not only illegal but have directly contributed to a breakdown of law and order. The complaint points to recent civil unrest in the city as evidence of the dangers of these policies, a claim that has been met with swift and strong opposition from city and state officials. At the heart of the federal government's argument is the claim that LA's sanctuary ordinance obstructs the enforcement of federal immigration laws. The Department of Justice contends that by refusing to honor detainer requests from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and by restricting information sharing, the city is creating a safe haven for undocumented immigrants, including those who may have committed crimes. The lawsuit explicitly states that LA's policies have created a lawless environment. This is a direct shot at the city's leadership and its long-standing approach to immigration. The Trump administration is seeking a court order to invalidate the ordinance, which would force Los Angeles to cooperate more fully with federal immigration authorities. The timing of this lawsuit is no coincidence. It follows a period of heightened immigration enforcement operations in Southern California, which in turn sparked significant protests. The administration is connecting these dots, arguing that the city's sanctuary status emboldened protesters and contributed to the escalation of tensions that required the deployment of the National Guard. Attorney General Pamela Bondi has been the face of the administration's legal challenge. In a public statement, she declared that sanctuary jurisdictions that flout federal law will not be tolerated. This rhetoric signals a clear intent from the White House to make an example of Los Angeles in its broader campaign against sanctuary policies nationwide. Now let's turn to the other side of this legal battle. Los Angeles officials have vehemently defended their sanctuary ordinance. Mayor Karen Bass and the city council argue that their policies are essential for community trust and public safety. They maintain that when all residents, regardless of immigration status, feel safe reporting crimes and cooperating with the police, the entire city is safer. The city attorney's office has stated that LA's ordinance was carefully drafted to comply with both the Constitution and federal law. They argue that the federal government is overstepping its authority and attempting to commandeer local resources for federal purposes, a violation of the principles of federalism that underpin the relationship between federal and state governments. California Governor Gavin Newsom has also entered the fray, calling the lawsuit a political stunt. He has accused the Trump administration of manufacturing a crisis to score political points and of using the legal system to intimidate cities that disagree with its hardline immigration policies. Newsom has vowed to support Los Angeles in its legal fight. It's important to understand that Los Angeles's sanctuary policies are not new. The city has had formal policies limiting cooperation with federal immigration agents since 1979. These were put in place to encourage immigrant communities to trust the LAPD and not fear that a call for help could lead to deportation. The current ordinance, which the Trump administration is challenging, codifies and strengthens these long-standing practices. It was passed in late 2024, a move widely seen as an attempt to Trump-proof the city's immigration policies in anticipation of a more aggressive federal stance. The term sanctuary city itself can be misleading. It doesn't mean that a city provides absolute protection from immigration enforcement. Rather, it refers to a set of policies that limit the use of local resources for federal immigration purposes. The extent of these limitations can vary significantly from one jurisdiction to another. Proponents of sanctuary policies argue that they are not about shielding criminals. They emphasize that local police still arrest and prosecute anyone who commits a crime, regardless of their immigration status. The focus is on drawing a clear line between local policing and federal immigration enforcement. They also point to studies suggesting that crime rates are not higher in sanctuary cities. In fact, some research indicates that these policies can enhance public safety by fostering better relationships between immigrant communities and law enforcement. When people aren't afraid to come forward as witnesses or victims, it's easier to solve crimes. On the other hand, critics of sanctuary policies, including the Trump administration, argue that they create a magnet for illegal immigration and can lead to the release of dangerous individuals back into the community. They often highlight specific cases where an undocumented immigrant who was not detained by local authorities went on to commit a serious crime. The legal precedent in this area is complex. The Supreme Court has previously ruled that the federal government cannot compel states to enforce federal law, a principle known as the anti-commandeering doctrine. This is a key part of Los Angeles's defense. However, the federal government has other tools at its disposal. It can, for example, try to withhold federal funding from jurisdictions that it deems to be non-compliant with federal law. This has been a recurring threat from the Trump administration against sanctuary cities. This lawsuit against Los Angeles is part of a broader legal and political strategy. The Trump administration has also filed similar lawsuits against other sanctuary jurisdictions across the country. The outcome of these cases could have a profound impact on the balance of power between the federal government and local authorities. For the residents of Los Angeles, the stakes are high. Immigrant communities are understandably anxious about the potential for increased trades and deportations. The lawsuit has amplified a sense of uncertainty and fear that has been present since the 2024 election. Meanwhile, those who support a more restrictive approach to immigration see this lawsuit as a necessary step to ensure the uniform application of federal law and to protect national security. They believe that all jurisdictions have a responsibility to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. The recent protests in Los Angeles, which the administration has linked to the city's sanctuary policies, add another layer of complexity. While many of the demonstrations were peaceful, there were instances of property damage and clashes with law enforcement. Opponents of the administration's policies argue that the protests were a direct response to the heavy-handed tactics of federal immigration agents and not a result of the city's sanctuary status. They see the lawsuit as an attempt to deflect blame for the unrest. This legal showdown is about more than just one city's ordinance. It's a fight over competing visions of American society. It pits the principle of local autonomy against the power of the federal government, and it raises fundamental questions about the role of cities in a national immigration system. The case will now make its way through the federal court system. Legal experts are divided on the likely outcome. Some believe that Los Angeles has a strong constitutional argument, while others think the federal government's claims of obstruction may hold sway. Regardless of the final verdict, this lawsuit has already had a significant impact. It has intensified the national debate over immigration, further polarized the political landscape, and placed Los Angeles at the epicenter of a legal and ideological struggle with far-reaching consequences. We will continue to follow this story as it develops and bring you the latest updates. The legal and political ramifications of this case will be felt long after the court has made its decision.